You remember the first time she said thank you. It was in a rushed text message, blurry from the airport Wi-Fi, and barely 3 words long. You had just wired her the first chunk of tuition. Back then, you were still telling yourself it was temporary, that she just needed a launch pad, and you were strong enough to give it. That's what big sisters do, right? They help, they lift, they pour from a cup even when it's running dry. You were working 2 jobs, nights at the front desk of that sleep clinic and weekends freelancing spreadsheets for companies who couldn't afford full-time finance staff. She knew that, or at least you thought she did. You believed that somewhere between the anatomy labs and the caffeine-fueled all-nighters, she was silently grateful. But gratitude has an expiration date, doesn't it? It started subtly. The calls got shorter. Her replies became emoji-laden shrugs instead of sentences. You'd ask about her week, and she'd say, busy, then pivot to asking for rent, or a new laptop, or a flight home. You didn't mind at first. She was your little sister. You remember braiding her hair before school and promising that one day she'd do something incredible. That was your dream for her, bigger than what you ever let yourself want for you. But then came the little signs. When she introduced you to her med school friends at a coffee shop, she said, "This is my sister," not, "This is my sister, she's the reason I'm here." You smiled through it, but something sharp flickered in your chest. And then you started to wonder if you were the backup generator for her entire life. Why were you always left in the dark? One weekend you asked if she could come over and just spend time. No reason, just hang out. She replied with a can't. Studying. You offered to bring takeout. No response. An hour later, she posted a story from brunch with classmates. You didn't comment. You didn't double text, but you did stare at your reflection in the phone screen a little longer than usual. Was this what giving looked like? You always extending a hand and her walking further out of reach. You tell yourself it's just a phase. She's stressed, overwhelmed. But the distance keeps growing and you keep paying. Because there's still some part of you that thinks love means showing up even when you're not invited. And then one night you're flipping through an old folder labeled MedFund on your laptop. It's full of receipts, transfer confirmations, book reimbursements, meal stipends. And for the first time you realize there's a number here, a real painful number. You close the laptop. You don't sleep well that night, not because of the money, but because you finally let yourself ask a question that's been tiptoeing through your head for years. Would she do the same for me? You only hear about the group chat because of a cousin's accidental screenshot. It's a photo of your sister holding her graduation robe, smiling, wide captioned, "Only a few more days." And above it a list of usernames, familiar ones. Family, friends, even that second cousin who once called your cat weird, but not you. You stare at the image for longer than you should, not because of the robe or the smiles, but because of the quiet space where your name should have been. You scroll back through your messages just in case. No invitation, no RSVP, no "hey, want to come," not even a forwarded Zoom link. You tap out a message, "Is there a separate chat?" Then delete it. You know the answer. It's strange how silence can feel louder than shouting. It rattles around in your chest, echoing in all the places where you once held warmth. You try not to let it show. You go about your day. You make coffee. You answer emails. You send a client a cheerful invoice. And then mid-lunch, your hand tightens around the fork as the word "excluded" dances behind your eyes. It's not just the absence, it's the decision. Someone had to scroll past your name, deliberately, repeatedly. They had to say, "not her," maybe even out loud. And still you tell yourself you're being sensitive, overreacting. You've always been the responsible one, the calm one, the one who doesn't throw scenes or make things about yourself. So you swallow it. You sit with the growing lump in your throat and the smaller, sharper one in your chest. Then your mom calls. "You're not coming to the graduation, right?" Not "are you coming," or "we hope you'll be there." Just a confirmation of your absence, as if it's a mutual understanding. You pause. She continues. "It's just, we didn't get a lot of tickets, and you know how important her residency contacts are? It's more professional this way." Professional. That word lands like a slap wrapped in silk. You say nothing. Your mom fills the space with small talk. You let her. She hangs up without asking if you're okay. That night, you scroll through the chat preview again. You don't cry. You don't rant. You just open a blank email draft and type your sister's name into the to line. Then you stare at the blinking cursor, wondering what would happen if you sent an actual invoice, a list. a polite reminder of who stood in the wings while she took every bow. You close the draft. Not yet. Instead, you buy a graduation card. You pick one with gold foil and a quote about journeys. You sign it, seal it, and place it in a drawer. Somewhere inside, you hope she might still send you a last-minute invite. That she'll realize what this moment really is. That it's not just her achievement, it's yours too. But deep down you already know, she's not going to. And the part that hurts the most, you still might have gone anyway. The dress still has the tag on it. You bought it 3 months ago on sale, but barely because it was the exact shade of midnight blue. She once said made you look elegant without trying. You'd imagine the moment clearly stepping into the ceremony hall, spotting her in the crowd, her eyes lighting up when she sees you. A quiet nod between sisters. You in that dress finally being part of the photo she'd want to keep. You try it on again days before the ceremony. Not because you're going by now, you're not even pretending to wait for an invite, but because there's a tiny part of you that needs to feel ready even when no one asks. The dress still fits, still flatters, still makes you feel like someone important might say, "You belong here." You stare at yourself in the mirror a beat too long. The reflection looking back doesn't blink, doesn't flinch. She's composed, but her shoulders look tired. Her jaw is set like someone bracing for applause that never comes. You take it off, hang it neatly back on the door. The hanger creaks a little as it settles. Graduation day arrives like a regular Tuesday. The morning sun leaks in warm and unforgiving. You make yourself coffee. You avoid social media. But by noon, the family group text lights up. Photo after photo. Your mom crying, your dad hugging your sister, balloons, her white coat ceremony. She's glowing, she's beautiful, she's surrounded. And you are nowhere. The card you wrote is still in the drawer unopened. You wonder if it's more honest to keep it that way. Maybe that's the final gesture, a silent congratulations from someone whose presence wasn't needed. You spend the afternoon cleaning your apartment as if scrubbing grout and dusting shelves can rinse out the ache in your chest. You throw away the half-used ribbon you'd bought for her gift. You fold the dress, tuck it into the back of your closet, and shut the door. No one calls. No one checks. Not even a stray wish you were here. And yet, when you walk past the living room mirror and glance sideways, you catch something unexpected in your reflection. Not grief, not jealousy. Something sharper. Resolve. Because now the unspoken thing has finally spoken. The truth has been made real, not in words, but in exclusion. She chose a version of her life where you were absent and you let her. But that doesn't mean there's no bill to settle. Later that night, you pour a glass of wine, not out of celebration, out of clarity. You sit down at your desk, open a spreadsheet, start typing. Category tuition, category housing. Year 1, category clinical supplies, category phone bills. Food emergency loans, just this once transfers. Each row a memory, each dollar a moment. You're not being petty. You're being honest. Because love is one thing. Enabling someone to erase you while standing on your shoulders, that's another. And so the final tab begins. Line by line. You don't expect to watch the speech. You stumble across it while trying to mute the noise. One of your cousins posted a video tagged everyone but you and wrote, "So proud of my girl." She nailed the valedictorian speech. Future doctor. You almost keep scrolling. Almost. But you press play. There she is standing under bright lights in that crimson robe, hair pinned perfectly, voice clear and polished like a TED Talk. You feel the breath catch in your throat. Not because she's nervous, she's not, but because she's so practiced. So professional. So rehearsed. You lean forward. First, I want to thank the people who made this possible. Here it comes. You hear your mom's name, your dad's, aunts, uncles, even that professor who once made her cry in the hallway. Laughter, applause. You wait. You wait longer. She moves on. Names that aren't yours tumble out like confetti, every syllable a tiny slap. She talks about hard work, about resilience, about never giving up even when support was thin. Your jaw tightens. Support was never thin. It was silent, maybe. Invisible, yes, but never absent. She doesn't say your name, not once, not in passing, not in a joke, not in the "and to those who know who they are" catch-all. She erases you clean. And what hurts most isn't the oversight, it's the deliberateness of it. Because that speech was written, revised, practiced. Somewhere along the way, your name got cut. Deliberately, you sit with that. The applause roars through your laptop speakers. Your ears ring. She beams. And you realize this isn't an accident. This isn't a moment of forgetfulness. This is her drawing a new story for herself, one where she alone is the hero, unburdened by the scaffolding that held her up. You close the laptop, but the quiet that follows isn't peace, it's a humming resentment that wraps around your ribs like twine. Not loud, not messy, just tight. You pour another glass of wine, this time no hesitation. You go back to your spreadsheet. Underneath meals, during clinical rotation, you add a row, emotional labor. There's no fixed dollar amount for that, but you assign one anyway. Then in bold you type, total $91,327.44. The number looks almost fictional, and yet it's real. Real enough to trace back through bank statements, Venmo transfers, receipts you never meant to keep. Real enough to send. You stare at it. You could just let it go. You could keep swallowing it like you always have, letting the world believe you're fine, that you don't need thanks or credit or a seat at the table. But not this time. This time you think maybe she should feel what a real invoice feels like. The kind you don't ignore. The wine glass trembles slightly as you lift it, more from the way your fingers clench than from any lack of control. You're not angry, at least not in the way people imagine. You're not shouting or sobbing or flipping over chairs. You're something colder, cleaner, the kind of anger that's been simmering for years and finally decides to plate itself up like a gourmet dish. You're at your parents' house, graduation weekend. They invited you to dinner, not the ceremony, just dinner. A quiet meal to catch up. You know what that means. Eat the food, smile at the right moments, clap for the right person. Your sister's seated at the head of the table, of course. She's glowing again, her white coat folded neatly over the back of her chair as if to casually remind everyone that she's not just a graduate. She's a doctor now. She's talking animatedly about the hospital she matched with all the incredible mentors who guided her. She thanks her professors again, her roommates, her dog. Still no mention of you. You take a sip, the glass clinks gently against your teeth. No one notices. Then your dad raises a toast. To the one who carried herself all the way through, on grit, on talent, on perseverance. The words land sharp. And still you don't say a word. Your mom chimes in. We always knew you'd make it, sweetie. You were so focused, so independent. Independent. You almost laugh. The kind of laugh that doesn't make it past your throat. You look down at your plate, your fork resting like an anchor. You count the breaths between your clenched teeth. Across the table, your sister glances at you briefly. She knows. You can see it flicker behind her eyes for a second, acknowledgement, guilt, something unnameable. But it's gone before it has a chance to matter. So you raise your glass gently, deliberately. To independence, you say softly. She doesn't look at you again after that. Back at your apartment later that night, you open the spreadsheet one more time. This time you open a Word document too. You start drafting. Dear name attached is a record of financial support extended between year and year, totaling 91,327 far. This includes tuition, living expenses, supplies, travel, and additional support offered as needed during your medical education. Please find the itemized invoice enclosed. You scroll back up. The salutation feels too formal. You delete it, then retype. Hi. You're not trying to be cold. You're trying to be clear. You rework the language. You remove the passive tone. You stop softening it with phrases like just a reminder and no pressure. Instead, you add one line at the end. If you ever wonder how you made it through, look at the invoice. Then look at who's missing from your speech. You print it. You fold it carefully. You slide it into a simple white envelope. No glitter, no card, no congratulations. Just math. You don't seal it yet. You let it sit on your desk overnight like an unopened door. And somehow you sleep better than you have in weeks. The envelope feels heavier than it should. It's not the paper, obviously, it's standard printer stock, nothing special. But your fingers hesitate over the seal, as if you're about to send something that might crack the earth in half. Not because it's dramatic, but because once this leaves your hands, there's no pretending anymore. You don't text her first. You don't give her a heads up. You've played the role of the reasonable sister for too long, and it never once bought you honesty. You dress for the delivery like it's any other errand. Jeans, neutral sweater, minimal makeup. You don't want to look like you're trying to make a statement, but you also don't want to look invisible. She still lives in that apartment above the bakery near the hospital. The one you co-signed for back when her credit score couldn't qualify her for anything better than a rented futon in a shared basement. You park nearby and walk the rest of the way. It's not dramatic. There's no soundtrack. Just your boots on the sidewalk, the smell of yeast and cinnamon from the downstairs ovens, and the steady drumbeat of your heart in your chest, matching the rhythm of each step. You buzz her apartment. No answer. You buzz again. Eventually, the door clicks open. She forgot to disconnect your access code from the building's system. A detail she probably never noticed. You take the stairs. You want her to hear you coming in case she's home. You want the knock on her door to land loud. 3 raps. She opens it confused at first. Hey, she says. You didn't text. No, you reply holding up the envelope. Didn't feel like it. There's a pause. Her eyes narrow a little, the kind of expression she gives when she's not sure if something's serious or sarcastic. She reaches for the envelope. You don't let go immediately. When you finally do, it's gentle, like placing a stone on a grave. She flips it over, fingers brushing the edge. What is this? An overdue acknowledgement, you say. Your voice isn't raised. It's quieter than you expected. Almost kind. She blinks. Is this a joke? You smile small. No. Her face shifts again, confusion morphing into something closer to offense. You're invoicing me. I'm giving you a chance to balance the story. She stares at you like she doesn't recognize the person in front of her. But that's the thing, maybe she never really did. Maybe all she ever saw was what you gave, not who gave it. I don't have time for this, she says, trying to hand the envelope back. But you're already turning, already walking back toward the stairs. You don't have to open it, you say over your shoulder, but you should. You don't slam the door behind you. You don't run. You don't cry. You walk back into the street, into the wind, into the quiet. And for the first time in a long while, you don't feel like you owe anyone an explanation. You expect her to ignore it, or laugh, or call your parents, or post something vague on Instagram about people being bitter when you shine. You've run through every possible reaction in your head, and all of them end with you rolling your eyes and pretending it didn't matter. What you don't expect is the text. Are you serious? 2 hours after delivery. No greeting, no punctuation, no emoji. Just those 3 words flat and sterile on your screen like a diagnosis. You stare at it. Then slowly you type back. Very? She calls almost instantly. You let it ring twice before answering. Not out of pettiness, just long enough to remind her you don't leap anymore. Her voice is clipped. What the hell is this? You glance at the ceiling, imagining a calm sky. It's a list, you say, of everything I paid for, while you became the person who told me not to come. She's quiet, too quiet. Then you're making it sound like I owe you for existing. No, you reply steady now. I'm reminding you that existing wasn't what cost me. Supporting you did. And you turned around and pretended I was never part of it. There's a sound on her end, something between a laugh and a scoff. We're family. You don't send invoices to family. Ah, there it is. You smile tight-lipped. Funny, you didn't seem to remember that when you planned a ceremony for everyone but me. That wasn't personal, she fires back. It was a professional setting. You used our cousin's toddler as a ring bearer in a professional setting. Silence. You continue slower this time. This isn't about money and you know it. It's about pretending I didn't matter. She exhales sharp. So what you want me to write you a check? Is that what this is? No, you say. I want you to admit to yourself that I didn't deserve what you did. But if it helps you understand the weight of it, yeah. Assigning value to things you took for granted isn't a bad start. More silence. Then she says almost bitterly, you're not the only person who made sacrifices. You nod though she can't see you. No. But I'm the only one who paid for yours and got erased in the process. She hangs up. No goodbye, just the sharp note of disconnection. You place the phone down gently. You don't cry. You don't fume. You just sit back, the hum of traffic outside your window, folding into the silence of your apartment. A message arrives. It's from her. Just a screenshot. Your invoice. The total circled in red. No caption. You stare at it, then chuckle softly. She opened it. She read every word. And even if she never responds again, you'll know the silence is no longer yours to carry. It's hers now. You don't hear from her for days. Not a text, not a call, no vague subtweets or mysterious messages about letting go of toxic energy. Just nothing. And in that nothing, something strange begins to settle. Relief. It's quiet, but it's real. You hadn't realized how much energy you spent anticipating her needs, monitoring her moods, trying to predict when she'd ask for help, and when she'd pretend you didn't exist. For years you lived on the edge of her orbit, always ready to catch what she dropped, always too polite to admit you were breaking your own back in the process. And now there's space. You go grocery shopping and only buy for yourself. You sleep through the night without waking up wondering if her rent was paid. You even walk past the bakery under her apartment without looking up. You don't need to check anymore. Then one morning, a call from your mother. Why did your sister call me crying about money? No, hello. You lean against the counter and stir your tea calmly. I sent her an invoice. There's a pause. You let it linger. Your mother sighs long and theatrical. That was cruel. You tilt your head. Not as cruel as pretending I was never part of her life. She's under a lot of pressure. And I wasn't. She's young. She's a doctor. She's your sister. You smile. The word no longer lands the way it used to. Exactly. The silence on the other end tells you everything. Not agreement, not outrage. Just quiet recognition. Your mom knows. She's known all along. She just liked it better when you didn't speak up. She's embarrassed, she finally says. You nod. So was I. When I realized I wasn't even worth a name drop. Your mom tries one more time. She doesn't have the money to pay you. I don't need the money, you say. I needed her to know what it cost me. That ends the call? And just like that, you become the villain in the family narrative. The one who sent the bill. The one who made it weird. The one who refused to keep pretending that silence equals grace. But here's what no one seems to understand. You didn't send that invoice to get paid. You sent it so you could stop carrying a debt no one even acknowledged. You sent it because forgiveness without accountability feels a lot like erasure. And for once, you weren't going to be erased. That night, you pour yourself a glass of water. No wine this time, no numbing, just clarity, just stillness. You toast yourself quietly under your breath to finally saying it. Your phone doesn't light up anymore. No birthday reminders from her. No "can you help me just this once" texts at 2 a.m. No photos of her dog in scrubs, just silence wide and echoing. But unlike before, it no longer feels like punishment, it feels like air. There's a kind of peace in not waiting, not checking, not caring whether you've been looped in. You stop scanning family photos for your absence. You stop rereading old texts for hints of appreciation. The tether once tight around your ribcage has loosened. You can breathe again. Sometimes your mind drifts to her face when she opened the envelope. You wonder if she read it alone or if she showed it to someone laughing, trying to turn it into a joke. You wonder if deep down some part of her finally did the math, not just the money, but the years, the missed birthdays, the comfort you gave without being asked, the backbone she borrowed without ever noticing it wasn't hers. But you don't linger there. You've already made peace with the idea that she may never say thank you, may never pay a cent, may never see you as anything other than the bitter one. That's okay. You've stopped needing her to explain your role in her story. You've started writing your own. One quiet morning, weeks later, you get a call from an unfamiliar number. You let it go to voicemail. When you play it back, it's her voice, calmer than you expect. Hey, I read everything. I get it now. I don't know if I can fix it. I don't even know where to start. But I didn't realize what I did until you showed me the receipt. Not just the money, everything. Then a pause, not awkward, just long. I'm sorry, I don't expect anything. I just wanted to say it. She hangs up. You don't rush to call back. You sit with it the way you've learned to sit with so many things now, slowly, honestly, without expectation. An apology doesn't erase a bill, but it does change the silence. That evening, you light a candle for no reason at all. Just because the flame is soft. Just because your apartment feels warm. Just because the absence no longer stings. You think of all the ways you've supported others without acknowledgement. Not just her, everyone. Quiet labors, invisible kindnesses, unpaid debts that never even came with a thank you. And for the first time, you see that your silence wasn't weakness. It was value. Held, absorbed, endured. But now your value has a voice. And it sent the invoice. Months pass. The story fades from conversation, but not from memory. You've become the quiet ripple that changed the current. People still talk about the graduation, the coat, the future, but now there's a pause. A small gap where your name used to be forgotten. You see it in subtle ways. An aunt starts CCing you again. A cousin mentions you with careful warmth. Even your mom hesitates before brushing off your voice. No one says it outright, but they've all felt the shift. You're not the background anymore. You haven't spoken to your sister since that voicemail. You listened to it again once late at night when the city outside your window sounded like waves. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't beg. And maybe that's why it rang true. It was clumsy, honest, just like most truths are. Still, you didn't respond. Not because you're holding a grudge, but because you no longer owe anyone your silence. One weekend you go to a wedding. Not family, an old coworker whose guest list dipped into the +1 from 3 jobs ago zone. You almost didn't go, but you put on the midnight blue dress, the one that was supposed to debut at a graduation, and step into the reception with steady feet. And there she is, across the room, laughing too loudly, wine glass in hand. She hasn't seen you yet. Your heart doesn't race. Your fingers don't clench. There's no panic, no dread, just curiosity. How small will this moment feel now that everything's changed? You turn toward the buffet pile, a plate with things you don't even really want. She spots you mid-bite. Her smile falters, then disappears. She doesn't approach, not immediately. You give her time. Eventually, she walks over alone, hands fiddling with the hem of her dress. "Hey," she says. You nod. "Hey." There's silence, but it's not heavy, just tentative. She looks down. "You look good. That dress, it suits you." You smile. "Yeah, I've been saving it for the right moment." She winces slightly, but not dramatically. She nods. "Fair." Another pause. "Then I'm trying. I've started sending money, just small amounts, to an account I set up. I don't know if you'll ever touch it." You raise an eyebrow. She shrugs. "I guess it's just my way of saying I finally see it." You don't say thank you. You don't let her off that easily. But you do say, "Okay, that's enough for now." She nods, fidgets, walks away. You don't watch her go. You turn back to your table. You eat. You laugh with people who don't know anything about invoices or silence or erased names, and it's good. The dress fits. So does the piece. And somewhere inside you, something finally unclenches. The burden has shifted, and you are no longer holding what wasn't yours to carry. The deposit lands in your account quietly. No memo, no note, no text afterward. Just a clean transfer, $250. Not enough to mean anything financially, more than enough to mean something emotionally. You stare at it, blinking. She did it. You don't reply. You don't mark it unread. You let it sit there like an offering left at the edge of a path you no longer need to walk. But the thing is, something shifts. Not because of the money, but because it's the first time she's chosen to carry a piece of the weight you used to drag alone. That weekend, you go through a drawer you've been avoiding. One stuffed with receipts, old notes, used-up notebooks with half-written grocery lists, and rent reminders from the years you were just helping out. You don't cry. You don't rage. You shred most of them. Not because they don't matter, but because they no longer define you. You keep one, the first tuition invoice. Not for her, for you. A reminder of who you were when you decided to love someone through sacrifice. And who you are now, having learned how to love someone without losing yourself. Later, she sends another payment, $100 this time. The memo just says, "For books, probably." You smirk. That night, you write her a short message. "Received, no balance due, we're good." You sit with the cursor blinking after those last 2 words. You don't owe her anything now. And more importantly, you've stopped needing anything back. You don't talk much after that. A few short texts spaced far apart. Polite check-ins, neutral and careful, like 2 people walking slowly around a crater, both pretending it's not still smoking. And that's fine. You've stopped looking for emotional fireworks. You've learned that healing rarely feels cinematic. Sometimes it looks like silence. Like choosing not to respond to something that used to keep you awake. Like hearing her name in a conversation and not flinching. It's a quiet morning when she sends a photo. No caption, just a shot of her desk at work. A white coat, a stethoscope, a framed picture. Of the 2 of you. You remember the moment it was taken. Beach trip years ago. You were both sunburned and laughing, and she was wearing your hoodie because she always forgot hers. You had no idea she still had the photo. You don't reply immediately. You just look at it, and you feel something loosen in your chest, not forgiveness exactly, but the space where forgiveness might someday live. You reply a few hours later. "That was a good day." She sends back a single heart emoji. You leave it there. That weekend, you take yourself out for dinner. Not a celebration, just a moment to recognize yourself. You order your favorite dish. You sit by the window. You toast yourself with water, the glass cool against your fingertips. And when you glance at your reflection in the pane, you see someone who held the line. Not for revenge, for clarity. Because the hardest kind of love is the one that lets go without bitterness, that stands still and says, This is what I gave, and this is what I keep. And tonight you keep your peace. Not borrowed, not owed. Yours, you run into her again on a Tuesday. Totally random. A coffee shop downtown you never used to visit, and there she is juggling a paper bag. Her phone wedged between shoulder and ear, ordering tea with the same impatience she's always had when multitasking. She doesn't see you at first. You could leave, slip away undetected, preserve the neat distance that settled between you both. But you don't. You step in line behind her. She turns. There's that microsecond of tension, her shoulders stiffen. Her voice falters mid-sentence. Then slowly she ends the call. Lowers the phone, offers a smile. It's not forced, but it's not easy either. Hey, she says. You nod. Hey. A beat passes. She gestures toward the pastry case, trying for casual. Still like those ridiculous raspberry things. You glance. They're still there, sugar-dusted and overpriced. I do. She orders too. You don't stop her. You sit together by the window. It's not a long conversation, no deep confessions, no teary apologies. Just two people relearning how to speak without flinching. She tells you a patient made her laugh. You tell her about a coworker's cat. You don't talk about the invoice, or the party, or the speech. That conversation is already over. But before you leave, she opens her bag, pulls out a folded envelope, and pushes it across the table. You blink. It's not money, she says. Just something I wrote. For you. You don't open it yet. You just hold it. Feel its weight. You walk out into the afternoon light, envelope in hand, and decide not to read it right away. You tuck it into your coat pocket. Not out of avoidance, but because for the first time in years, you're not rushing toward closure. You're already living in it. You don't read the letter that night. You think you might. You come home, hang up your coat, take it out, place it gently on the counter. It stares at you while you heat up leftovers, while the TV hums in the background, while the wind presses faintly against the windows, like someone too polite to knock. You keep glancing at it, but something in you knows the moment has already happened. Not in the ink, not on the page, but in the handing over. That gesture, small and shaky, held more weight than any apology inside the envelope ever could. So you wait. 3 days later, on a quiet evening, without reason or expectation, you open it. Her handwriting is still the same, slanted and hurried like she's always racing some invisible clock. She writes about the early days, how scared she was when she left home, how easy it was to lean on you without realizing she was stepping over you. She writes that she replayed her speech and hated how your name wasn't there, that she deleted it from her phone because it made her feel like a stranger to herself. She doesn't grovel, doesn't beg. She just admits she sees it now, all of it. You. There's a line near the end. I think I used your strength like it was furniture, something always there, something I never questioned. But I do now. And I'm sorry I made you feel like furniture instead of a person. You fold the letter gently. You don't cry. You don't feel vindicated. You feel still. Later that night, you place the letter beside the old tuition invoice you kept. 2 artifacts, one from the start, one from the after. Balance, not in dollars. In dignity. The letter stays in your drawer. Not because you've forgotten it, but because it served its purpose. You don't reread it often, just knowing it's there is enough. Like a lighthouse long after the storm has passed. It reminds you that sometimes people do see the damage, just long after you've already rebuilt. Life doesn't change all at once. You still go to work, still fold laundry, still overwater your plants sometimes. But there's a new quiet now, one that doesn't ache, one that isn't pretending but finally at peace. And when you think of her, it's no longer a burn. It's a memory, with corners, with shape, with distance. You don't define yourself by what you gave, or what she didn't say. You define yourself by something steadier. You stayed kind. And then you set the boundary, and then you kept walking. There is something beautiful about that. Not dramatic, not loud, just honest. There are days when she sends a photo, a silly text, a song you both liked once. You reply sometimes. Other times you let it wait, not out of punishment, but because your time is yours now. And on nights when the silence returns, you don't rush to fill it. You let it breathe, because you've learned that not all closure comes in a scene. Sometimes it comes in the form of a clean kitchen, an unopened envelope, or a heart that finally stops asking, what did I do wrong? You did nothing wrong. You were there. You carried love. You stopped when it hurt too much to hold alone. And now, you rest. Because some nights just lying still and breathing softly is enough to return home to yourself.